Yeah, part two of this essay, which appeared in the German news magazine, The Spiegel. So my last paragraph that I read here before is: Iran would be in a position to destroy the Zionist dream without even pressing a button, a retired general said. And no one knows better than the Israeli leadership how much power lies in the mere belief that a country has nuclear weapons. After all, Israel itself has used this belief as a deterrent for the past 40 years. It is believed that an estimated 100 to 200 nuclear warheads have been produced at the reactor in the Negev desert. Israeli historian Benny Morris, who is not normally considered to be a hardliner, recently suggested using the weapons. If the issue is whether Israel or Iran should perish, then Iran should perish. So, it isn't just a mere belief that Israel has nuclear weapons, in contrast to what is being said here. Israel has very definitely nuclear weapons. There's no doubt about it. While as far as the Iranians are concerned, there's quite a bit of doubt whether they would develop them. In fact, what they're saying is they're willing to enter negotiations as long as they can develop their civilian nuclear energy programs. While the Europeans continue to pin their hopes on diplomacy and are convinced that a negotiated solution that would allow Tehran to save face is still possible, the Israelis already view the UN sanctions as a failure. Russia and China, they say, sabotaged the boycott from the very beginning, and even the Europeans are only half-heartedly supporting the sanctions. I suppose that is why they're going after the Iranian banks now. So I'm not sure if I would call that half-hearted, but I'm not sure if it's effective either, of course. Politicians, for instance, in Berlin, Germany, have noted with grave concerns of the next war brewing concerns. I'll do this again. Politicians in Berlin have noted with concern signs of the next war brewing in the Middle East. Former Foreign Minister Joschka Fischer, who travels regularly to Jerusalem and Washington for political talks, warns that Israel could see the Bush presidency as its last chance to gain American support for a military strike. Politically speaking, the window for action is now. In the last months of George W. Bush's term in office, Fisher wrote recently, the Middle East is headed for another major confrontation. Bruce Riedel, a Middle East expert who has spent many years working in the CIA, sees an Israeli military strike with the U.S. government's consent as the most likely scenario. But the consequence, according to Riedel, would not differ from those of an American attack. If an Israeli attack will be seen as a U.S. attack, Iran will retaliate against both Israel and the U.S. The consequences, says Riedel, would be fatal. We will see the entire Middle East go up in flames. And this is, incidentally, exactly the same words that al-Baraidi, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but the IAEA nuclear inspector from the UN said about that situation. He also warned against it, came out very strongly against it. Nevertheless, in Israel, it is no longer a matter of whether there will be a military strike, but when. It is clear that the attack would be exclusively an aerial strike. Jerusalem recently received approval from Washington for a purchase of F-52 stealth bombers. The centrifuges used to enrich uranium at the Natanz nuclear facility are apparently the main target. According to Israeli information, these centrifuges are kept above ground and are thus easier to destroy. The reactor at Bushehr is seen as another possible target. One might want to ask the question, what about the enriched uranium itself that is going to be used for nuclear energy? Where is that stored? No one is asking the question. And obviously centrifuges are necessary for both civilian purposes, and they could be used to manufacture nuclear bombs. And the Iranian air defenses, we know that Iran's air defenses are not amongst the world's best, says former Mossad chief Yatom. They can be overcome. Nevertheless, many Israelis still hope that the Americans will do their job for them. It could be still the case, says Yatom, that George W. Bush wants to guarantee himself a place in the history books with this last act. So this was portions of an article written by Der Spiegel magazine, a German publication, and it was a political article. Thanks for listening. So, yes, the chances are quite high that such a thing might happen. Good night.